Good to see you all again. My name is Alex, and you are on the Classic Cars Roast channel. Oh, this one. Frankly, I'm not even sure where to begin with the sheer number of problems here. But let's try, shall we? 1986 Lincoln Town Car. First off, if you're looking for a classic car that screams, "I peaked in the 1970s," well, congratulations, you found it. This beast is stuck in the malaise era like it's been glued to the couch for decades, consuming cheap beer and reruns of old sitcoms. The town car is like that uncle who thinks he's still relevant because he can recite lines from movies you've never heard of. Now, let's talk dollars and cents. If you think you can snag one of these for a song, think again. Prices for well-preserved examples range from $5,000 to $15,000 at auction, with some absurdly low-mileage versions fetching even more. Can you believe it? Cars with just a few thousand miles on the odometer are selling for prices that could buy you a brand new compact. You might find a town car with a mere 97 miles for a staggering price of $140,000. That's not a car. That's a collector's fantasy wrapped in a sea of chrome and nostalgia. But hold your horses. This isn't just a pretty face in the driveway. The first impressions are a mix of nostalgia and horror. The exterior is a throwback to a time when cars had actual character. Boxy designs, vertically slatted chrome grills, and full-width bumpers that make you feel like you're driving a land yacht. But let's not kid ourselves. That's where the charm ends. Under the hood lies a mediocre 302 cubic inch displacement engine that produces a pathetic 150 horsepower. That's right, folks, 150. This is a far cry from the roaring V8s of the golden era. 1970 was the last great year for high-compression engines, and the town car is proof that we've lost our way. And what about that AOD transmission? Sure, it's an automatic, but it's no Turbo Hydromatic 400. That's the best automatic transmission ever built. The AOD? It's like the awkward cousin at a family reunion who can't quite keep up with the conversation. You're going to find it susceptible to early failure if it hasn't been serviced properly, which is a gamble you probably don't want to take. So there you have it, an overpriced relic from a bygone era that desperately wants to be relevant but fails miserably. If you're still dreaming of owning one, brace yourself for a roller coaster of rust spots, electrical failures, and a drive that would put a sloth to shame. Are you ready to join the ranks of those who remember the glory days or just step back into the past with a car that has all the charm of a worn-out sofa? All right, car lovers, grab your popcorn and settle in because we're diving into the creation story of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car, a vehicle that perfectly encapsulates the malaise era of American automotive history. Picture this: the late 70s and early 80s, a time when the gas crisis had everyone clutching their wallets tighter than a vice grip. This was a period when the glory days of high-compression V8 engines were fading faster than American muscle cars in a demolition derby. 1970 was the last great year for those bad boys, and by the time we hit 1986, we were left with a pathetic 7.6 to 1 compression ratio on this Lincoln's engine. Under the hood, we find a lackluster 302 cubic inch displacement engine cranking out a measly 150 horsepower. Can you believe that? 150 horsepower. Back in the day, you could find lawn mowers with more gusto. The torque? A decent 270 pound-feet, but let's be real, it's not going to win any drag races. To make matters worse, the automatic overdrive transmission that came standard was a far cry from the Turbo Hydromatic 400, the best automatic transmission ever built. This AOD unit was notorious for its susceptibility to failure if not treated with kid gloves. If you ask me, that's a massive disqualifying element right there. Now let's talk about the aesthetics of this boxy behemoth. The design was an homage to the grand American sedans of yesteryear, complete with a vertically slatted chrome grille that could blind a raccoon at 20 paces. The full-width chrome bumpers? They might as well be a security blanket for this rolling fortress. But don't let the chrome fool you. Those body quirks often mask some pretty dreadful build quality. Common rust spots on the rear quarters and lower trunk area? Yeah, you bet your last dollar they're there. And if you think the interior is a sanctuary of luxury, think again. While you're greeted with a full bench seat and a dashboard that looks like it was inspired by a spaceship, The electrical issues lurking beneath the surface are more terrifying than your ex's texts. In short, the 1986 Lincoln Town Car is a product of a time when American automotive engineering was taking a nosedive. It's a classic example of how the industry traded power and performance for comfort and luxury, leaving us with a car that screams nostalgia but whispers mediocrity. Would I buy one? Well, if it's got low mileage and decent condition, maybe, just maybe. But don't go thinking you'll be taking it to the racetrack anytime soon. That's not what this heavy iron is about. All right, folks. Now we're diving into the exterior of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car. And oh boy, if you thought the engine was a letdown, just wait until you wrap your eyes around this design disaster. First off, let's talk about the colors. The factory offered a selection that would make even the most eager paint enthusiast roll their eyes. Light regatta blue, medium shadow blue, dark cabernet, midnight black, silver frost, and champagne. Seriously? Champagne? That's what you name a color? It sounds more like a hangover cure than an automotive hue. The whole palette screams, "I'm a boring retiree," and lacks any real flair. Now, the body lines. This thing is as boxy as a refrigerator from the 70s, and not in a good way. The distinctive full-size boxy design with its prominent Lincoln Opera windows makes it look like it's trying way too hard to be a luxury vehicle, while simultaneously reminding us that the malaise era was in full swing. You know, back when cars were designed more for comfort than for any actual sense of style. The lines are flat, the angles are sharp, and the whole package just feels, well, uninspired. And how about that grille? The vertically slatted chrome grille is just as unchanged as the rest of this car's aging personality. It's like the designer said, "Why bother innovating when we can just slap on more chrome and call it a day?" It's a glaring example of "I've given up" aesthetics. Full-width chrome bumpers with rubber impact strips. They might as well have put on some foam pool floats and called it a day. This is not the kind of luxury that turns heads. It's the kind of luxury that makes you blend into a retirement community parking lot. But let's not forget the quirks. The rear quarters and lower trunk area are notorious for rust, and if you're not careful, you might find yourself with a set of doors that are about as secure as a toddler's art project. The bottom edges of those doors? Yeah, they're just waiting to crumble into dust like the dreams of anyone hoping for a solid investment in this car. So, what do you think? Do you see beauty where I see bland? Are you feeling the luxury this car claims to provide, or is it just a heavy chunk of metal trying to masquerade as something more? For me, the exterior is just the icing on a rather stale cake. If you're after a car that stands out, the 1986 Lincoln Town Car is a hard pass. But hey, if you enjoy the aesthetic of a retirement home on wheels, then by all means, have at it. All right, folks, here we go. Time to dissect the interior of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car, and let me tell you, it's a mixed bag of luxurious aspirations and some truly cringe-worthy elements. First off, the dashboard. You have this analog instrumentation cluster that's about as horizontal as a flat pancake. There's a big old clock right in the middle. Who doesn't love a clock that reminds you of how long you've been stuck in this rolling piece of nostalgia? The layout screams, "I'm from the malaise era." But at least they tried to make it look somewhat sophisticated. But seriously, if you're looking for cutting-edge tech, you're in the wrong decade. Now let's talk about the smell. Picture this. You slide into the plush seats, which are either premium cloth or leather. If you're lucky, you've got the leather. But take a whiff. That intoxicating aroma of aged vinyl and dust hits you. It's like a time capsule of all the road trips and fast food runs from the 80s, mixed with a hint of mildew if the car hasn't been cared for properly. You know what I mean? It's a smell that either makes you nostalgic or makes you want to roll down the windows and breathe fresh air. Comfort? Well, it's a full bench seat, and in a car this size, you'd expect to be cradled in luxury. But here's the kicker. If you're over 6 feet tall, you might feel like a sardine in a can. The lack of a center console is a bit baffling. Instead, you get this fold-out armrest that feels more like an afterthought than a feature. And don't even get me started on those power adjustments. They're optional, but if you're lucky enough to snag a model with them, you might still find the seat doesn't go back far enough for a comfortable drive. Now let's move on to the options. Automatic climate control? Check. Premium sound system? You bet. But guess what? The electrical issues lurking beneath the surface can turn those fancy features into a total headache. Power windows that refuse to budge and locks that have a mind of their own are all too common. It's like the car is actively trying to ruin your day. One last thing, those quirks that make this car unique? The distinctive full-size, boxy design and the prominent Lincoln Opera windows are great, but they don't mask the fact that the overall feel of the interior is a tad outdated. It's classic, sure, but it's also a reminder that this was a time when American luxury was taking a nosedive. So here's the big question. Would I spend my money on this interior? Not a chance unless it's in pristine condition, and even then, I'd be wary. So there you have it. The interior of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car, a nostalgic blend of luxury and flaws that can either charm you or leave you shaking your head in disbelief. All right, gearheads, it's time to rip the hood off this beast and take a hard look at what makes the engine of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car tick, or more accurately, what makes it wheeze. Under that enormous boxy exterior lies the engine code A9, a 302 cubic inch displacement V8. Now, you might think, hey, that sounds decent, but let's not kid ourselves. It's a far cry from the glory days of high-compression V8s. I mean, 1970 was the last great year for that kind of power, and here we are stuck with a pathetic 150 horsepower at the crank. That's not just a disappointment. It's a slap in the face to anyone who remembers what real American muscle used to feel like. And torque? Sure, it's got 270 pound-feet, but that's hardly going to light any fires. The performance numbers are downright dismal. 0 to 60 miles per hour in approximately 11.5 seconds. Seriously, that's like watching molasses flow uphill in January. And when it comes to the quarter mile, you'll be lucky to cross the finish line in under 18.5 seconds. This isn't just sluggish, it's embarrassing. I've seen lawnmowers that could outrun this hunk of metal. Now let's talk about the transmission. The automatic overdrive unit might sound fancy, but it's not without its issues. The AOD transmission has a notorious reputation for being susceptible to early failure, especially if it hasn't been serviced properly. That's a gamble you're taking every time you try to merge onto a highway. And if the air suspension system, another weak point, decides to give out on you, well, good luck navigating that sinking ship. What's even more ridiculous is that this engine, which could barely muster a yawn, was supposed to represent luxury. Instead, it's a sad reminder of the malaise era, when manufacturers sacrificed performance on the altar of fuel economy and emissions standards. This car was a blatant compromise, and it shows. The engineers clearly put more effort into making it look good than making it run well. I mean, come on, who are they kidding? Now, if you're considering buying one of these, you better ask yourself, is that underwhelming performance worth it? For me, that's a hard pass. If I wanted to drive something that feels like it's dragging a weight behind it, I'd just strap a couple of cinder blocks to the back of my pickup. So, is this engine a classic case of style over substance? Absolutely. And in my book, that's a deal breaker. All right, gearheads. Let's dive into the nitty-gritty of the transmission and rear axle on this behemoth of a car, the 1986 Lincoln Town Car. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Oh, it's just a luxury cruiser. Who cares about the mechanics? Well, you should care because this is where the real story lies. First off, let's talk about the transmission, the automatic overdrive, or AOD for short. Now, hold on a second because I'm about to drop a truth bomb. The Turbo Hydromatic 400, hands down the best automatic transmission ever built, stands in stark contrast to this AOD. I mean, come on, the AOD is a decent unit but has the potential for premature failure if not serviced correctly. That's a hard pill to swallow for a car that's supposed to ooze sophistication and luxury. You should expect smooth shifts in a luxury vehicle, but the AOD can be a bit of a diva. If you don't treat it right, it'll throw a tantrum on you. And don't even get me started on the rear axle ratios. The 2.73 to 1 ratio is about as exciting as watching paint dry. You'd think a car of this stature would offer something more thrilling, but nope. It's just a straight-up snooze fest meant for cruising, not for tearing up the asphalt. Now, let's address the real elephant in the room, this car's performance. With a 0 to 60 miles per hour time of approximately 11.5 seconds, the town car is not winning any drag races anytime soon. Instead of screaming down the quarter mile, it takes its sweet time, clocking in at around 18.5 seconds. So if you're looking for a thrill ride, you might want to look elsewhere. The underlying problem? The sad combination of a lackluster engine and an uninspiring transmission. You're left with a car that's more about taking your time in the lap of luxury than it is about speed and agility. So what does this all mean for you? It means that if you're considering adding this car to your collection, you better be prepared to deal with the quirks of that AOD and the underwhelming rear axle. Remember, this isn't the high-compression V8 glory days of 1970. This is the malaise era in full swing, and this car is a testament to that decline. If you can embrace the fact that you're not getting a performance powerhouse, then maybe, just maybe, you can find some enjoyment in the smooth, laid-back cruising experience that the Lincoln Town Car offers. But for me, a lack of excitement in the mechanics is a deal-breaker. How about you? All right, folks, grab your coffee because we're diving into the suspension, brakes, and handling of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car. To put it bluntly, this car is a floating couch that misses the mark on what handling should be. Now, let's break it down. First off, the suspension system. This is where the malaise era really shines through in all the wrong ways. The air suspension on these models? It's like trusting a balloon to hold up your house. Sure, it was a novel idea back in the day, but how often do you hear about air suspension systems leaking? Exactly. If you're looking at one of these beauties, you better check for leaks like a hawk because that's a common issue. Now, on to the brakes. Ever had that moment when you slam on the brakes and pray you stop in time? That's a regular Tuesday in a town car. The brakes are not exactly confidence-inspiring. The pedal feel is mushy, and you can almost hear the car laughing at you when you try to stop on a dime. It's like the engineers threw in a just-get-it-done approach. And don't get me started on the AOD transmission. Sure, it's a decent unit, but paired with this suspension and brake setup, you're left with a car that feels like it's constantly fighting against you. Handling? Well, let's just say it used to be better. You know those classic cars from the mid-60s to early 70s that hugged the road and felt alive? Yeah, this is not one of them. The town car handles like a boat in a storm, heavy and cumbersome. You'll be swaying through corners like it's a Saturday night dance party, and trust me, you won't be winning any races with a 0 to 60 time of approximately 11.5 seconds. That's a performance metric that belongs in the dumpster of automotive history. So, what's the takeaway here? If you're considering this car, prepare yourself for a suspension that feels like it's been on a permanent vacation, brakes that leave you second-guessing your life choices, and handling that's about as responsive as a brick wall. It's not a sports car. It's a luxury land yacht that thinks it can cruise through turns. If you want to float around in style, fine. But if you think you're going to have any fun behind the wheel, you might want to reconsider. Would I buy one? Not a chance. Not with this kind of driving experience. When it comes to the reliability of the 1986 Lincoln Town Car, you might want to brace yourself. This machine has a reputation for being a bit of a diva. Sure, it looks like a luxury liner, but under the surface, it's a different story. You see, common rust spots plague the rear quarters, lower trunk area, and even the bottom edges of the doors. If you're looking for a car that will last you through thick and thin, this isn't it. It's more like a car that'll cause you to sweat bullets every time you park it near a puddle. And let's not even get started on the electrical gremlins lurking in the shadows. Those power windows and locks, they're just waiting to fail on you, thanks to relay and switch issues that feel like they were designed to drive you mad. So, if you're a fan of peace of mind, you might want to steer clear of this one. Now, the AOD automatic transmission, while not the worst, certainly doesn't hold a candle to the Turbo Hydromatic 400, which is the gold standard in automatic transmissions. It's like comparing a fine wine to a cheap knockoff. The AOD is known for its susceptibility to early failure if not serviced properly, and let's be honest, how many of us are diligently keeping up with that? And don't even dream of an air suspension system without leaks. That's practically a rite of passage for this car. So what's my verdict? The 1986 Lincoln Town Car is a mixed bag. It has that brutal charm that comes with classic American luxury, But you'll find yourself facing a myriad of issues if you don't find one that's been meticulously maintained. Are you willing to take on the risk of rust, electrical failures, and a transmission that might just quit on you? If you're a collector or a serious enthusiast who appreciates its nostalgic value, you might find it worth the gamble. Despite all its flaws, if you stumble upon one in good condition for a fair price, like those auction prices ranging from $5,000 to $15,000, maybe, just maybe, you should consider buying it. But let me ask you this. Are you ready to deal with the baggage that comes with it? Would you spend your money on this? If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give it a like. Leave your comments and impressions. Your opinion is very important to me. Until next time.